Hi everyone, I'm Deirdre Breckenridge and we're here at the PRSA International Conference in Indianapolis, and I'm joined by my colleague here, Mark McClennan. He is a PRSA chair and an SVP at MSL Group. Hi Mark.
Hi Deirdre.
Good to have you with me.
It's great to be here.
My goodness, there is a lot going on at the conference this year. So busy, so many things to do and people to see. Yeah, really great. How many people?
It's been an amazing 3 days. We had about 2,400 professionals and students, ranging the gamut from folks in associations, corporate, nonprofit, technology agencies, you name it. It's been a wonderful, wonderful conference.
I just feel like there's a lot of energy and knowledge sharing. And, I'm noticing there are some hot topics out there. What do you think are the hottest topics right now?
I think the keynotes have been going amazingly well. And I think people are talking about both the learning, social media continues to be strong, but it's more a focus now on what's the business impact.
Right.
And how you can really align what's going on with that, what's happening there. Keynotes, Captain Kelly talking about leadership and really understanding, what's the changing face of the profession, and more importantly, how can we advance the profession with things like diversity. I am so happy to see diversity has been really front and center in a lot of discussions at the conference and in business now over the past little bit.
No, and it's so important that businesses embrace diversity.
Absolutely.
So, it's really good to have that here at their professional industry conference. So, a lot of what we do, things are changing and we see that our roles are revolving, but a lot of, at our core, is relationships. So how would you say that the media and relationship building has changed, or is it the same, and how are we doing?
Well, it's an interesting question, and it's something I talk about a lot, because if you look at it, the fundamentals of being strategic communicators to help our clients realize business objectives, that stays the same. I was reading, it was a great book that came out in the 1990s called The Victorian Internet, and you can read about how, when it came to the telegraph, they said newspapers have to submit to destiny and go out of business. We're seeing new types of crime every day. This is in the 1840s. The North Star, the core elements stay the same. Exactly. You need to adapt. You don't want to get wedded to the technologies or the tactics. Those are going to change. I remember when Alta Vista was the dominant search engine.
Oh, I remember that too.
Absolutely. But telling a good story, making sure that when you're going and you're talking to a reporter or an influencer or a client, you're bringing something valuable each and every time. That's there, and how the form may change, but make sure you still kind of focus on those key elements and key businesses.
Well, you mentioned influencers, so of course I have to begs the question, how do you think we're doing building relationships with influencers? Are we taking the right approach? Is it the same as working with the media? What do you think we're doing well, and where are our challenges?
Well, I think one of the biggest buckets, and actually Scott Stratton, who is one of our keynote speakers, talked about it, is I think we're bucketing everybody as influencers.
Yeah.
Everybody really is an influencer. You influence somebody else in your life regardless.
Right.
You need to understand what's the purpose, what's the goal, what's the understanding. Right. My young son watches YouTube videos again and again over, there's an influencer, all he does is rate elevator rides and how he enjoys the different elevators. Somebody else talks about dealership startups, and these are people that, and he actually gets gifts from Otis Elevator and all these other companies because he's doing this. Now, mind you, I don't know if they know his main audience may be 9-year-old boys that like to watch elevator rides.
Who knows?
But, when it comes down to it, you need to understand, how can you engage? How can you make sure you're bringing a true story that matters to the influencer? Because, again, it's not what you want to do.
No,
it's what the end person wants to do, what they want to talk about. Where I think there may be a slippery slope for some companies is when compensation enters into the picture.
Oh, that's a
you
big
got to
topic.
make sure you disclose.
Right.
In the end, transparency, disclosure, if there's something involved and if they want a fee or a donation, fine, but make sure people know that it's being paid for.
Right. Even right down to the gift certificate or come and shop $500 worth. But
Absolutely.
no matter what that blogger or influencer does, if you're going to take it into your community, you have to disclose and let everybody know that I was given this gift or something from the brand. So that's really important. How do you think we're doing with that?
I think we're doing pretty good, actually, overall. I think the steps get made clear. I think the ethical brands have always done that.
Right.
I think there's been some missteps. You're going to see them. I think you see some interesting things, both with the FTC and the FDA coming down there. And that's the thing that you need to make sure you train everybody on, because it's not just going to hurt your brand. There are fines. Look at what the New York State Attorney General's done over fake Yelp reviews.
Right.
The fines that come up there. It's something we need to do, but I think as you're looking at it, you still need to, you can't be overly transparent when it comes to if you're giving any sort of compensation.
And transparent, that is just a word that resonates from take the best of traditional forward. You know, your transparency, your ethics. How do you feel about ethics in an age of social communication?
I think it's more important than ever.
Yeah,
I mean, that's why PRSA launched our ethics app a while ago, which really, we wanted to get it in the hands of our members. But in the end, I mean, there's the studies that show that millennials, you know, it's a business impact. It's the right thing to do, yes, that's unquestioning. But companies that have ethical behavior are rewarded with more business. So even if you're self-interested, doing the right thing is a good thing. And I think that's where you need to really make sure. And you know, you need to make sure the challenge gets to be, and it was an interesting study a couple of years ago on training your ethical mind, that people tend to make selfish decisions when they're under time pressure. You know, it's when they have a time to think about it and reason about it that they're more likely to make the more informed ethical decision. So we need to prepare our people, kind of like athletes prepare with their swings and their practice, you know, having regular discussions during team meetings. You know, if you're an organization, you should be talking to your agencies and bringing up these ethical issues to make sure you're always making those choices. So when we're under that time pressure, we're making the right choice and not the self-interested one.
Yeah, and you dedicate a whole month to ethics.
Absolutely. But it can't even be just a month.
No,
I mean, it's great to highlight. Ethics is something, and I tell
day.
folks, you know, what I do with my team meetings, usually at least once a month, we carve out some time to have a discussion of what are some of the ethical issues you saw in the media over the past month. How would you handle it? How would you handle it differently?
Right. And I think with our relationships as we go along and professional development, we help one another and we learn from one another. Speaking of that, professional development and learning and skills, there's so many things, new skills required of PR professionals. So how are you helping PR professionals, and what do you think some of those skills are that are really important to them?
Sure. I mean, you know, PRSA provides a whole bunch of tools available online, in person, through chapters, through sections. When you look at it, though, what I say about PR professionals is strategic counselors, and Pat Jackson's the one who first said it, you need to be an architect, not a carpenter. You know, we need to be familiar with the tools. You don't necessarily need to be able to get into the nitty-gritty of coding. I can code. That's a great benefit.
Oh, sure.
But it's understanding the time that's involved. When it comes to where I think some of the tools are that people need to look at, is they need to be looking at big data. I mean, they need to be looking at how you can be leveraging data more in your decision-making process. And then in terms of the key professional development, one of my big messages this year is that PR people need to stop saying, I got into PR because I hate math. Fundamentally, it's not true for many people. But if you look at it, most people that got into communications or public relations did it because we love language. You know, we love the words. I had a 20-minute debate with a chief communications officer at a Fortune 500 company over the Oxford comma. When you talk about CEOs and CFOs, the language of business is math. And if you want to be a trusted advisor, the minute they hear you say, I got into PR because I hate math, why are they going to take you seriously? It's a self-inflicted wound we're putting on ourselves that we need to stop. You know, and you don't need to be a CPA, but you do need to have basic financial literacy. And so we launched a project recently where it is the, you know, financial communications or financial literacy for the non-financial professional to really make sure everybody has at least that basic core understanding so they can be good business advisors.
Absolutely, you need that because we are so integrated with our organizations, or at least we're moving toward that, the convergence of PR and marketing and sales and customer service. So you really have to be on top of your math.
Absolutely.
Very much. So, you know, with everything that's said, what advice would you give to young professionals and any age professional about being that connector, that relationship builder, and what we do so well in PR?
You know, what I'd say to any PR professional is never stop learning. I mean, the minute you stop learning is the minute you become irrelevant, really, and you're going to go out of business or you're not going to be a good advisor. So it's read everything. You know, I mean, read the Wall Street Journal, read the New York Times, read EW.com, read whatever you want to do. Really make sure you're getting aware because knowledge is never wasted. And then make sure you're talking to people. And, you know, there's a lot of adages that are out there, but the best thing is you can learn so much more from others to make your job and make you more effective. That the minute you think you have all the answers, you're in deep trouble there. So keep on going. Engage with your peers, online, in person. Talk about the issues. Have the debates. And don't be afraid to try new things. You know, failure happens. You know, fail fast is the big mantra in the technology industry. You may try something and it may not work the way you want it to. What did you learn from it and how can you improve it afterwards?
How'd you move
and
forward?
Too many people are paranoid about that. Oh my gosh, we didn't hit the metric. yeah, you want to hit and exceed the metric. If you didn't, don't just mark it up as an F. Figure out how can I do better next time, or is this not the right thing for us?
Exactly. Mark, thank you so much for
My
all
pleasure.
of the insights. It was
Thank
great
you
to
for
chat
having
with
me.
you. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.